And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome, excuse me, hello and welcome to Trust and Estates Weekly. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, although as you may be noting by the time on your clock, it's a little bit later than 10 a.m. and that's because I got stuck in court this morning for a few minutes. And fortunately, my guest today, Kevin Quinn, was able to be flexible and start a few minutes late. So I don't want to do a big long beginning here. I want to get right into talking with Kevin, but I would be remiss in not noting that, you know, today is the Kevin and Kevin show, and so it's you know, twice as good as it normally would be. So Kevin, thanks so much for coming on Trust and Estates Weekly this morning.
Sure. Well, I'm very happy to be here with you, Kevin, and appreciate your invitation to join you today.
So, you know, as I said when we were prepping for the show, I'd like to start out with giving you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into the independent trustee business, because I think that's particularly useful for especially those folks who are considering this as a career, but also for people who work with independent trustees to understand the kind of background that people have.
Okay. Well, I'm often asked, how did you get into this work? Are you an attorney? And no, I'm not an attorney, but I have been doing this work as an independent or private trustee for 12 years. And the way I got into this was through life experiences, not through what anyone might consider a traditional career path. Okay. So the first 25 years of my working life, I was in the IT world, and I was trained as a systems engineer and computer programmer, and then project manager, program manager, certified project manager for large scale software development and network implementations, and worked with several companies. And what happened was I got to a point in my career where I was ready for a change. Okay. Now, this might not seem like the most natural change to go from the IT world to this world. But right about the time I was ready for a change, my father-in-law had passed away, and then less than a year later, my father had passed away. And so there was a little bit of internal, what do I want to do with the rest of my life questions going on inside me. But what happened was going back 30 some years, my grandmother, who was twice widowed, and my father, who was an only child, had put together what we would now call her estate plan. Mm-hmm. And she set up some trusts. She moved some things over that Dad started managing, kept some things herself that she was managing, started some trusts that I was administering. And when she passed away, everything went right along according to schedule. And then when Dad passed away, everything just fell off the rails. Mm-hmm. Well, if the plan had been going along for so many years, you'd say, okay, well, why did it fall off the rails now after several decades of a plan being well executed? And the story is like this. Dad had gotten sick, and he wasn't going to get any better. And I remember so clearly reviewing the documents one time, visiting him. And I said, okay, now I noticed that you made a change here, and you put mom in as your successor, replacing me, where I'd always been there for years and years. And he said, yeah, she'll be able to handle it, and she won't be able to do anything without uh, leaning on you anyhow. Okay. So just smarts, salute smartly and say, yeah, it's your decision. No, fine. Um, so after he'd passed away, things went off the rails because uh, mom had not been prepped
Mhm.
to manage what they had. And we're not talking by any stretch of the imagination, you know, got rocks money or anything. But, it was enough that, needed to be handled more than casually.
Mhm.
Um, but she got herself in trouble in a hurry. Okay.
Yeah.
Some bad actors, some people praying, and you know, it just things just really got bad quickly. And it took about I don't know, maybe a year, whatever it took to work through this with her, with her attorney and her financial advisor, uh, to the point of getting her to say, okay, she was ready to resign as trustee in favor of me coming back in as trustee. So it was through that process, uh, coupled with being at a point in life where I was looking to change careers and do something that was more meaningful to me, that I said, well, if this can occur uh, in a situation where there's been a well thought out and well executed plan for nearly 30 years, um, and then one misstep just really threw it in the ditch, I bet there's going to be a lot of people who find themselves in this situation, uh, and they don't even know what's going to hit them. And I thought, doing this, I frustrating as it was dealing with family and so on, the actual work, I said, well, I like doing this. This is something I want to do. I
Mhm.
said, well, okay. Apparently, there's no reason I can't do this for other people. So this is what I'm going to do, and I hung out my shingle. So that's how I got into it. Now, from a from a skill perspective, what skills am I bringing to the table? Well, sure, I haven't come out of a trust company, not coming out of a law firm
Mhm.
or anything, but I found that my many years of professional project management uh, really enabled me to slide into the trustee seat very easily because those same skills were required. I'm just using those same skills in a different environment. Okay.
Mhm.
So the communication skills, the uh, being able to look at the big picture and pull in the people that you need to pull in, um, let everybody understand what their piece of the puzzle is, wave the baton, keep the band playing together, whatever metaphor you want to use, all those things were just instantly applicable. So from a skills or things that I do perspective, that wasn't a
Mhm.
real stretch. But I became very happy doing this.
So, question: you said something a moment ago that really piqued my interest. You said just salute smartly and proceed. I'm just curious. Were you in the military before, or?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, uh, never have been. Um,
So, and the reason I ask is there's a lot of people coming out of the military who, um, have a pretty deep project management background,
sure,
and they're looking for something meaningful to do, right? And as a military veteran myself, um, it's how you described your journey to becoming a private trustee really sounds like something that people, like I say, people coming off of active duty, they could really embrace. I'm curious. You mentioned that there was some skullduggery, some preying on your mother when she was a trustee. How did seeing that kind of um, attempts to take advantage of people, how did that, if at all, figure into your decision to pursue this new career path, or this different career path? I don't want to call it new, different career path.
Sure. The It didn't play into the decision uh, to hang out my shingle, as it were, but it definitely played into my determination to take care of, try to protect my mother, and what Dad had worked for so many years. He had told me, take care of her. Well, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that to the best of my ability.
Hmm.
Uh, I never dreamed that it would be something that planted a seed that has grown into what has been an entire second and hopefully last profession.
Right.
Um, so it's an interesting thought you have about people coming out of the military, and you're right, many do have good, strong project management skills. Um, hadn't thought about that before, but I can see that for someone who's really looking around, and what they want to do. Certainly, I think to do this work, you have to really enjoy a lot of variety in your day.
Hmm.
There are things you have to do every day or every month, but there's always a lot of variety in this work every day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, and when people ask me the question I asked you, why did you get into this, and what do you like about it? And one of the things I tell them is, like you, I was not an attorney in a previous life. I was a law clerk, but not an attorney. And I didn't go to business school or anything. I went to architecture school, which is kind of like a project management school in many ways.
Mhm.
Um, what I find is I don't need to have the legal knowledge. I don't need to have the accounting knowledge, because I'm working as part of a team, and I'm going to have an attorney on that team. I'm going to have an accountant on the team. I'm kind of the team captain, and I'm making sure this machine works as smoothly as possible in, fulfilling its duty, if you will, to the beneficiaries, obviously within the rules that are set up either by the trust or by the court. So, um,
Certainly true. Uh, there's a lot of things that you pick up as you go through, and you learn, and you grow. And I do agree with you that you don't have to be all those other things. And in most instances, you don't want to be
mhm,
those other things. Matter of fact, my professional errors and omissions policy says I shouldn't be those other things,
mhm.
right? That's part of the risk management is, do what you do, and have the people who have the specialized skills do what they do.
Mhm.
And it's your job as trustee to make sure that you are bringing in the right people at the right time when you need the assistance. Right. So you have as trustee, as you well know, you have the responsibility for making sure things happen, but that doesn't always mean that you are the one who has to do those things, but you are responsible for bringing the right people in to assist.
Mhm.
Because if it goes wrong, that's on your shoulders, that you picked the wrong person to come in and help you
Right.
with that particular client.
So let's pivot now a little bit, and let's talk about, you're one of the founders of the Independent Trustee Alliance. So, talk to us, if you would. How did that come about, and how did you get involved in starting this new organization. I think it's about 2-3 years old now.
Oh no, the ITA, as we call it, was founded actually in 2016. So
Oh, okay.
we're 8.5, going on 9 years. But this is the story of how the ITA came about.
Mhm.
Um, when I got started in this business, and this is advice I'd give to anyone who's building this sort of a practice. I was doing a lot of heavy networking. I was doing 3 or 4 networking groups a week, and then probably 90% of my time was out networking with people.
Mhm.
So I would talk with people about what it is I was doing. I'm independent trustee, private trustee. I administer trusts. I administer estates, and probably 85% of people I would talk with would just look at me like I had 6 heads and 3 tails and say, I had no idea what you're talking about, but good luck, good luck with that. Right? Uh, Another 10% would say, okay, uh, I understand what you're describing. I understand what you're doing. I don't know anybody I can introduce you to help you further down the road, but at least I understand what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Okay. And it was that last probably 5% of people uh, who would say, okay, got it. Understand what you're doing. I see the need. Now uh, help me get to that next little rung up the ladder of comfort.
Mhm.
Help make me more comfortable that I can introduce you to my clients and my professional peers. Okay, as I'm in the state of Texas, and in the state of Texas, as is the case in most states except for California, Arizona, uh, it's a wide open profession. If you're willing to take on the personal risk of
Mhm.
being the trustee and being personally liable and can be sued as trustee, uh, then you're allowed to do the work. Okay,
Mhm.
so California, of course, you got the professional fiduciary licensing, and
Mhm.
Arizona is doing some of that now.
Mhm.
But that's really it. So it was okay. Well, how do we? What's now? How can we get people over that last hump of saying, okay, this is legit. This is on the up and up, and I'm willing to introduce you to other professionals. So what's that missing piece out here? And I realized, okay, no, there's no real uh, industry advocacy group, if you will, for
Mhm.
independent trustees. So through another organization, I had met Dan Felix, who's out of Chicago, a professional trustee, and we started talking, and that was the genesis of creating the Independent Trustee Alliance. Of course, Marguerite Lorenz came on board very quickly with us, and some other professionals that we knew came in early to help build the organization. So, about the first year or so, we really did not advertise that the Independent Trustee Alliance was in existence. What we did was we first defined our ethics and best practices,
Mhm.
because we said, okay, we number one, we want to protect this profession so that it doesn't get a black eye, so that it can grow, because we all believe very strongly that this profession needs to grow.
Mhm.
Um, and number two, we said, okay, we don't need to wait on any uh, governing body or panel or something to tell us what's important about this work, and come up with their own idea of a licensing or whatever. So we created certified independent trustee and master certified independent trustee designations, which are the only certifications available in this profession. As certified independent trustee, that you have to have been doing this work for a minimum of 5 years professionally outside of a bank or trust company, really, and not just for one family, but for multiple families or multiple clients. Um, five uh, five of those, 5 trusts, 5 years, and a minimum of 5 professional references that we can check down, and we do. Master certified is essentially the same, but doubled. 10 years experience, 10 different trusts minimum, 10 professional references. So that in the macro are the certification requirements. Of course, there's some more specifics for each, but in the macro, that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been asked often, okay, will the certifications, will there one day be a time where there's a set curriculum and somebody can take a curriculum, pass the test, and become certified? Don't know if we'll get to that point. Don't know if we want to take it in that direction or not.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we did, there will always be an experience component and a reference component to it. Not everybody who has applied for certification has been accepted
Mm-hmm.
because we really are jealously trying to guard that. Um, I say frequently, uh, when it comes to the ITA and uh, getting the word out to other professionals, we really, really want, number one, the profession of independent trustee to be as well known and ubiquitous as that of an attorney. Everybody knows what an attorney is, what the job is. Everybody knows attorneys specialize in different facets of the law, and everyone has a real good idea of when they need to consult with an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And we want independent trustee to reach that same level of awareness, not just amongst professionals, but amongst the general population. Okay? And in conjunction with the certification, we want it to get to the point where one day a professional looks at the client and says, you need an independent trustee, and that independent trustee needs to be ITA certified.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that certification is to become and remain the gold star standard for this industry.
So it's interesting because in my one of my former professions, I was a real estate appraiser. And if you're familiar with an organization called the Appraisal Institute, which is now and has been for quite some time, I think it's part of the larger sort of National Association of Realtors sphere. But in the 1930s, when real estate appraising was first starting to professionalize, some real estate appraisers got together with very much the same intent that I think you and your co-founders had, which was we want people to understand what a professional real estate appraiser really does, and we want to create a situation where people who are committing fraud or doing bad work can be identified apart from the people who are committed to doing a professional job. So they created a designation called the MAI, Member Appraisal Institute. And it sounds like, oh, member, pay $50 and you join. But that's not what it was. It was very much based on experience, training, agreement to adhere to a code of ethics. And until FIREA was passed in, I think it was 1989, especially when you talked about a commercial appraisal, I should say an appraisal of a commercial property, it was referred to as an MAI appraisal because that was the gold standard. And it was only with the advent of a national appraisal licensing regime that was imposed on each of the 50 states that the Appraisal Institute and the MAI designation lost some of its luster. And as someone who never held that designation and who actually benefited from appraisal licensing, I will say that in some ways it was a shame that that designation got eclipsed, because it was appraisers taking responsibility for, our own profession, and we're uniquely able to see who's really doing the things that ought not to be done. So, and it worked for basically, 60 plus years, almost 70 years. So, very much in line with the history of why professional organizations were created. That's how I see the ITA, very much in that history.
Well, sure. The things that you described are very important to us: protecting the profession, uh, weeding out those people who are the bad actors, uh, and not letting them give the profession a black eye.
Mhm.
And also, the training is very important to us. We want people doing this work to be properly trained, and sure, a lot of this training is on the job training. There
Mhm.
no substitute for experience, but anyone who comes into this as their second or third career uh, has a lot of skills already, and can find it to be an easier transition than they might imagine.
Mhm.
But through the Independent Trustee Alliance, uh, oh, half a dozen times or so a year, we'll record webinars for topics that we believe are important and interesting to our members that they're not getting elsewhere. And we do our annual conference in May of each year, where it's day and a half, 2 days of real uh, instruction on things that are topical and uh, important to people doing this work, as well as interactions with peers, where you can really pick each other's brains and find people who are good colleagues to know, who can help you when you need help, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So getting the education out there is very important. Um, but we also did things through ITA that we thought were important just to support the people working in this profession, because so many are solo practitioners or small office. So we offer access to individually underwritten health insurance, um, dental, vision, um, errors and omissions insurance available, um, things like that that can be difficult for somebody uh, running a small practice to be able to get access to.
Mhm.
So we really want ITA not only to promote the profession, not only to set the standards, but to also always be there to provide tools and resources for the people working in this field that hopefully they're not able to find elsewhere, because they were put into the ITA by people doing this work saying, gee, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. So, okay, we make it part of ITA.
Mhm. And as I understand it, the membership of ITA is not just independent or private trustees, that you have other professionals who are involved in trust and estate administration, estate planning, et cetera. Would you talk to us, about that, and how you see that aspect of the organization?
We often say membership is available to anyone who wants to see this profession grow. So we're very happy to have attorneys who are members, financial advisors, insurance professionals, real estate professionals, family office advisors, those people who uh, the trustees need to know and who need to know the trustees. Okay? So it's not a case of, you know, exclusivity to where only independent trustees are members, where you have just the general regular membership level.
Hmm.
And then the other two membership levels are the certified independent trustee and the master certified independent trustee. So that's it, the three levels of membership. Uh, we just so want to see this profession flourish, and we want people to know that this profession is out there. So anyone who wants to join ITA as a member, as an associate member, is welcome to join and, you know, get involved and, you know, just help spread the word and see what this is all about.
Hmm. So I know this is going back now a number of months ago. You sponsored an event. You called it a hanging out around the water cooler event,
Right, just
basically.
water cooler talks,
Yeah,
right?
water cooler talks. And that was the first. I had joined the ITA just a few months before that, I think, and that was the first event that I attended. And I will say that I was very impressed because everyone there was very committed to, as you say, seeing this profession flourish, but also the spirit there was not one of competition, but one of cooperation. And since then, I've become, friends with another independent trustee who lives in Santa Barbara, which is about an hour north of me. It's actually where I grew up. And Kaya was actually a guest on the show, I think, a week or two ago, and it's been a terrific relationship for us because I know I had a question about something that I hadn't dealt with before, and from my talks with Kaya, I knew he had, and so I was able to reach out to him, and he was just completely open and giving with helping me with that. And as you mentioned, so true. Most of us are sole practitioners, and so we can't turn to a big, huge staff in our office and say, "Hey, who's dealt with this?" Because when I turn around, all I got is things here on my partition behind me. So to be able to have colleagues that I can run things by, just to get their perspective on it, is, I find, for me, is one of the most valuable things. And I know there's a water cooler talk coming up, I think later this week, if I'm not mistaken, that I'm looking for. So those kind of periodic, somewhat informal opportunities really, to me, set the hallmark for what the ITA is all about. So, and thoughts on the sort of collegiality of the organization.
It's intentional that we remain collegial, yet I'm always uh, surprised surprised very pleasantly at how much that spirit reigns and the extent to which people who get involved uh, actually pitch in and have those uh, open conversations and pick each other's brains, share information. The water cooler discussions, I think, are very important. Just like you observed, so many are solo practitioners, and you're just not in an office with colleagues where you can, you know, discuss and cuss what's going on. And so the water coolers are for that. And then at the annual conference, that's been consistent feedback as well, that the attendees are really in that same mindset of just really wanting to have the conversations with their colleagues. Matter of fact, the last morning of the annual conference, at least for a 2 hour block or so, is dedicated to nothing but open roundtable discussion, a little facilitated, but just a room full of people in this industry, just discussing hot topics. Or there's always a lot of has anybody encountered this before, and how did you take care of it? What worked and what didn't work. And the feedback has always been very positive about that. So that's real important to us, that we always have that openness.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. So we're actually because we started late. We're coming up on our time deadline, unfortunately. But just I want to give kind of like final thoughts on how the ITA can benefit people who are involved in estates, trusts, and probates. Um, if you want to, I can make the shameless pitch, if you will. Because some people are a little bit shy of doing that. But as the president of the organization, I suspect that this is part of your your role. But why should people join this organization? We were talking before we went live for a few minutes. There's about 225 members nationwide in the organization. Our goal is to have 1,000 members by the end of next year. So, we're looking to basically quadruple the size of the organization, and that means demonstrating to a lot of people the value of being a part of this organization. So, what do you see as being sort of the core tenets, if you will, in the value proposition of being part of the ITA?
well, for the individual practitioner, it's putting some muscle behind you. Okay, it's giving you access not just to an organization where we're working so hard to keep everybody's reputation sterling, and that has the certifications and the ethics and everything, but also access to find out where the other peers are. Where are the people like you that somebody needs to know, and and become a colleague of, become a professional friend of. Uh, so for the individual, it's creating that environment, uh, virtual office, if you will. Virtual company might be a better, uh, somewhat better terminology.
Mm-hmm.
For professionals and for individuals and families, uh, it's really about giving them, just the knowledge that if I engage somebody who's involved with the ITA, if I engage a private trustee who's an ITA member, I'm getting somebody who is really committed to this as a profession, somebody who has some skills and knowledge. I'm not hiring Uncle Ned because Uncle Ned's never had a job a day in his life. Okay? It's hiring, it's getting access to the people who are qualified and have the skills and knowledge. So many attorneys, for instance, uh, you know, they just don't know that this is an alternative for their clients, where they can, you know, if there's a couple sitting at the with the attorney and creating estate plans and documents, well, who's going to be the successor trustee, and who's going to, hold your power of attorney, or anything like that. When they turn and look at each other and shrug their shoulders, well, that's when those attorneys need to say, let me tell you about the Independent Trustee Alliance. And you can go out to the Independent Trustee Alliance, click on that Find a Professional button, and search for somebody in your area who does this professionally and is committed to this profession. So in a very macro way, that's the propositions, the value propositions. We got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
This whole profession is a field that really is never been plowed. Okay, and oftentimes, you get the question, well, what is an independent trustee? And my favorite answer is, you know, when it comes to what an independent trustee does, the services provided, and really what is involved, and it's those of us working in this profession who get to define what this profession is.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's what we say it is, because we're the ones doing the work. We're defining, we're plowing this field. Okay, and there's a lot of work to be done, but it's good work. It's meaningful work. It's work that really uh, it's not just meaningful to the practitioner, but it's meaningful to the clients and the people that we serve. And you know as well as I do, when you get those clients who are just so grateful because who's going to be helping them
Mm-hmm.
from this standpoint has been such a heavy burden on them. And now they have somebody who's willing to do it, and not just willing to do it, but does it professionally and knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the relieved looks come over their face as well as I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gratifying. And we're always mindful of the responsibilities that we're taking on to our clients. So it's you got to be committed to do this work. But if you are, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great note on which to wrap up the show. So Kevin, again, thank you very much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have you hang tight. I'm gonna do a quick wrap up, and then maybe we can talk for a minute or two offline. But for those of you who are interested in joining the ITA or learning more about it, you can go to trusteealliance.com. That link will be in the show notes after this episode posts on our YouTube channel. So you can click through and you can see in greater detail what Kevin has been talking about today. And I will tell you, as someone who has committed to helping the ITA grow and thrive, and who has looked for an organization like this within this profession and talked to others who were looking for this kind of organization. We all came to the ITA and said, yeah, this is the real deal. So I encourage you to join, to get involved. I'm going to be leading an effort. Kevin mentioned Marguerite Lorenz. I'm working with Marguerite. We created something called the ITA Search Party, which is we're a group that's going out to looking for new members. And if you want to be an ITA search partier and work with us to grow this organization and have a real hand in creating defining ever more so what the private trustee is all about. There's no better place than you could start than by, like I said, being an ITA search partier. And if you want information on that, feel free to contact me directly. My email address, social media, and such will all be in the show notes, and would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about that. So that's our show for today. Real quickly, tomorrow at 10 a.m. All Pacific time is my show, Business Lessons from the Military, and the topic is just what it sounds like. And let's see, the show for tomorrow, I'm trying to remember the topic. Yes. So I'm going to be talking about one of the classic military texts. It's called On War by von Clausewitz, and distilling business lessons that you can use from that text. And then on Wednesday at 10 a.m. is my show, people making money. And this will kind of dovetail on what Kevin was saying a minute ago, because my topic is continuous building of skills and knowledge in today's rapidly changing business and professional environment. Your only protection against being rendered obsolete by AI or whatever else is coming down the pike is to be mindfully and intentionally looking to keep your skills, your knowledge at the top of your profession. So we're going to talk about that on Wednesday. So Kevin, one last time, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. For all of you out there, we had a number of people watching live. Always great to have you on with us. I appreciate it. And wishing you all a wonderful rest of the day. Signing off as I always do. Marie, darling, you are my bell. Courage at all times, my friends.